Good morning. We're here today with Ian Franklin, co-founder and chairman of SPL International. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, and hope everybody's well.
Thank you. Well, Ian, can you please introduce yourself and SPL International?
Yes, certainly. Professionally, I'm a headhunter, international headhunter. I own a company called Stickfest Group, as you can see on the logo behind me. And earlier this year, in April, in fact, of this year, two of my colleagues and I got together because we're all philanthropists as well. And we felt that we would like to do something for philanthropists, bearing in mind that the country was beginning to ease a little bit about COVID, and we could begin to think about future events and so on. So we started organizing a dinner for philanthropists, which was actually held on the 17th of September in Birmingham. And the idea behind that was for around about 40 philanthropists all to get together, to network, to talk with each other, to catch up with each other, and to basically raise money for good cause. So we organized that, and it was a very successful dinner, and we're going to continue organizing these dinners. Now, the reason that SPL came about was because we needed a limited company to organize these. And so we launched the company back right at the very start of May, in fact, to do this. And once we had launched the company, we felt that there could be further areas that we could concentrate in, particularly in the context of philanthropy on one side and toys for the wealthy, as it were, on the other side, because all three of us have a lot of extensive experience in dealing with high net worths and ultra high net worths on a global basis. So we looked at lifestyle, we looked at cars, we looked at aviation, private marine, and also real estate as well. And taking cars as a prime example, which we'll talk about, I think, in a moment, that was a major target for us. But to cut that long story short, working with the cars and any revenues we gain from the cars side and also the other areas, a proportion of the profits will go back into the philanthropy element through a foundation that we are creating within SPL itself. And they therefore will go into the good causes on a global basis that will be part of that foundation as time goes by. Meanwhile, we still continue the dinner events for philanthropists, and the next one will be at the end of January in London. Then one after that, probably in April, will be in Scotland, and so on.
That's very interesting. Well, I went on your website, and let's go back to what you said about toys. So how do you source rare items or toys for your clients, and do you have a case studies?
Yes.
A case study that you can mention or disclose?
Let's take cars as a good example here. A lot of the wealthy do like their cars, but they like their cars for either of two reasons, really. One, to use and to play with and to enjoy, or for investment. Now, a lot of the vehicles that we do and we will be sourcing, and I'll come on to what sourcing actually means in a moment, will be for investment purposes. Okay. So these will be rare, hyper, super classic cars, different categories, and that are very expensive. You're talking anything from over £750,000 in sale value, going up to millions and millions and millions in a normal situation. That's it. Sometimes a little bit cheaper, sometimes just going into infinite costs. So to take an example of an investment vehicle, and one case we worked on recently, and I'll broadly describe it without going into too much detail because of confidentiality reasons.
Of course.
But we had a client who was a purchaser who's based in the United States. He particularly wanted and for those of you who know your cars, you'll know what I'm talking about here, a Bugatti Chiron. And Bugatti Chirons are not cheap. You're talking millions of dollars. And so, as I say, without going into too much detail, we had a very long conversation with him. That included within that conversation was, one, has he got the money, the proof of funds? And it's clean money, of course. So due diligence on that. There's also the fact that why does he want that car? Why does he want that particular car? What is the budget itself on that car? What's it going to cover in that budget? The logistics of moving the car once we buy it, the other areas of travel, hospitality, and so on and so forth that we'll need to do. And bearing in mind that he's a United States client, and he would have to get a car from the United States because of the various motoring and automotive regulations that there are in the States.
Yes.
So we couldn't have got one from Europe, say. So it had to be a US car. So we then instructed a sourcer. Now, the sourcers that we would use would be professionals who know those cars inside out, backwards and forwards, upside down. They know every nut and bolt on the Bugatti, for example. And so they will be able to know where these cars are. They will be able to approach the possible and probable sellers, negotiate, deal, and job done. The sources would then organize all the other aspects of logistics and so on to get the car moved to the buyer. And then the buyer, of course, pays us a fee for doing so. So that's the way. And we would work on all sorts of cars, not just Bugattis, but all sorts of cars of that sort of ilk around the world. And so take it from there. The other side of the cars also, just very, very briefly, if I may, is that on the website we also have a kind of what could be crudely defined as a classified section where we advertise cars over £100,000 in sale value. These are ones who can go into public domain. We don't put the source in public domain because it is confidential, but the public domain advertising is done to the extent that cars are over £100,000 in value. They're either sold through a dealer, so we would do a link through to the dealer's website, and dealer would then also give us the link for the details on that particular car. If it's a private sale, then for every inquirer we get for any of those, we would do some due diligence on the inquirer, and then we would send him or her a compressed zipped folder with all the details on that car, and then we can facilitate and be involved with negotiation if required. So we would do the same for aviation. We would do the same for marine. We would do the same, similar for real estate and property. The only difference with marine and aviation is we would also extend that to recruiting for crews, teams, because planes and boats need to be maintained and ran and so on.
Absolutely.
So with as I said earlier, with a proportion of the profits that we gain from that side goes into the philanthropic element of what SPL is all about in the first place.
Okay, wow, that's wow. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I'm not too sure whether I'll contact you one day for a Bugatti myself, but who knows? Depends.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Well,
we'll do the best deal.
On your website as well, there's a mention of events.
Yes.
Can you please tell us more about the events that you organize?
Yes, this relates to what I was saying earlier about philanthropic events. This is how SPL all started, with us, arranging dinners for philanthropists and foundations. The first dinner that we held, as I mentioned earlier, was on the 17th of September. It was held at the Belfry in Sutton Coldfield near Birmingham. So we needed to, when we were organising this, we needed to make sure it was a decent location. Belfry is very much a very decent location. And it was going to be a black tie event, which was very extra nice because of coming out of COVID and, people getting the bow ties out of the cupboard and out of the drawers and so on was a very nice thing to do. And people just enjoy that sort of thing. But whilst it was a smart black tie evening dinner, a very nice dinner as well, it was also quite informal. And, it was a collective of people, like-minded people, all of whom have the same moral compass of giving. And we made, and also to have what could be defined as a special guest who could speak about his or her experience in philanthropy. In this case, the one on the 17th of September at the Belfry, we had a gentleman called Sandro Forte. And Sandro is very much a philanthropist, very much a foundation, very, very much an expert in areas of finance and other areas related to that as well. And as the name suggests, he's on the peripherals of the Forte family, the hotel family as well. So, yes. And he gave an absolutely superb and excellent talk about his areas of philanthropy as well. And during his talk, he also real time gave a donation to a charity that one of the members of the dinner party, as it were, was supporting. And that's a very interesting, very nice thing to do as well at the same time. The next event, as I was saying, in January, we're just in the process of arranging that now. That will be somewhere in London. We do know where, but I won't say where just yet because we haven't put it in the public announcements. But that will be a bigger dinner. And being in London as well, there's going to be a wider range of philanthropy involved with that. And alongside by then, the other part of SPL, which I haven't mentioned yet, in relation to philanthropy, is that we have a philanthropy consultancy that we're in the process of setting up. This is for those who are just in the process of entering philanthropy for the first time. So we will advise and mentor through that process, so they know exactly what philanthropy is, the laws, rules, etc. I hope that answers that question.
Absolutely, yes, it does. Thank you very much. So, well, first of all, thank you very much, Ian. And if you'd like to know more about SPL, sourcing out for potentially, I'm not too sure whether more Bugattis or other rare items, whether it's aviation, yachts, boats, or if you would like to participate in one of the events that they organize, hopefully the next one in London, or if you like it, like Ian just suggested, to know more about the philanthropy consultancy, please get in touch with him, and I'm certain he'll be more than happy to have a chat with you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you very much.